Shower thought. A brief, insightful, or sometimes insane idea that pops into someone's head during a mundane activity such as showering.
I think you can see where this video is going.
Probably the dumbest thing I've ever done.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh yeah!
Sometimes engineers engineer things because they're useful and they serve a purpose, and other times they engineer things because they can. And this is probably one of those situations where I basically just did because I thought it was fun. And before I get into the details of how I built this rocket, which was definitely structurally sound.
Oh my God, bro.
I would first like to thank you guys for over 500 subscribers and over 275,000 channel views. I never thought we'd be at this point. So keep up the good work, guys. I want to see this channel skyrocket, pun intended. So make sure to like the video and subscribe, because if you don't, the rocket will explode. Basically, I had the idea for this project when I was a freshman in high school, and I never really thought anything about the project until probably senior year. And I decided I wanted to do it, but instead of making a really big 15-foot rocket, I wanted to kind of jokingly see how skinny I could make one. As a freshman in high school, Groundbreaker sounds like a really cool name for a rocket. It didn't sound as cool in senior year. The reason I kept it is because the joke was that it was probably going to fail, and when it came in ballistic, the ground was going to break. That's basically how the project started. So right off the bat, we have to address some major concerns with the rocket before we even design it. So some of the major concerns were obviously, how do I make this thing structurally sound? How do I install a recovery system? How do I put a camera on? Motor retention? How do I do all that stuff? So I basically kept these in the back of my mind while I was designing the rocket, and that really helped me think of those design issues that I needed to solve. So first up, we started with our open rocket simulation.
I essentially designed the rocket to have 5 airframe sections, a custom nose cone, and 4 custom fins, and simulated it on various engine profiles until I found something that I liked and thought would work. Next, I worked on actually CADing the rocket components.
On shape is where I modeled more of the custom parts like the tube couplers, the nose cone, the fins, the centering rings, basically most of the rocket. I ended up going up with 54mm motor mount tubes instead of 54mm airframes, because the cardboard 54mm airframes are actually thinner than the 54mm motor tubes. So yeah, my entire rocket's basically built out of motor tubes, which is interesting, but it did add a lot of rigidity. Another thing I did to make the rocket more rigid is I actually printed these custom couplers. So these are PETG, and essentially I printed them horizontally so that when the rocket was flexing, it was flexing against the layer lines. Another cool thing about these couplers is because they were printed horizontally like this, the layer lines add a little bit of a texture to the build, and that really helps with bonding the epoxy good to the inside of the airframe. Another thing about these couplers are there are 4 holes that go around, and why I did that is because another challenge is, how do I transport a rocket this big? A 15-foot rocket is not going to fit in pretty much any car. I knew that I had one separation point where the recovery system had to deploy, and that was one area where I knew the rocket could be taken apart. But I still wanted to be able to break it down more. So what I did was the upper airframe section and the nose cone, I actually just bolted on through these 4 holes, and that is what allowed me to break down the rocket essentially into 3 sections so I could transport it really easy. The custom 54mm to 38mm motor tube centering rings, as well as the custom through-wall fins that I designed for the rocket, I cut out on laser, and huge shout out to my friend Spencer who helped me do that. They came out great.
And I definitely didn't have to recut them because the tolerance was perfect the first time.
Now getting on to motor retention, I used a 38mm Aeropack retainer, and this was a lot easier than Z-clips because I really didn't have any room between the 54mm airframe and the 38mm motor tube to actually fit screws for Z-clips. So I ended up just going with the Aeropack retainer, and it worked great. It was super easy. The recovery system, I didn't have enough room to get an eye bolt on the centering ring because of how narrow this build was. So I actually used a really cool method where essentially I took some Kevlar, I wrapped it down through the centering ring, around the motor tube, then looped it back up, and I epoxied it all around that motor mount so that it would be really strong. And that piece of Kevlar was about 5 feet long, and it had a loop at the other end. And I essentially tied a 30-foot tubular nylon cord to the other end of the Kevlar. For the parachute, I flew a 36-inch ripstop nylon parachute, and the reason I chose it is because it's still pretty heavy because of the couplers and the epoxy I used. If I had to guess, I'd probably say the rocket is about
5.14 pounds because I definitely knew that and didn't have to look it up. For the onboard video, I designed and 3D printed a custom bracket to fit an Estes Astrocam.
Hi, camera. Hi, camera.
Next, onto paint and decals.
I painted the fin can of the rocket a white color and then taped over it and painted the rest of the rocket black. And then for decals, last minute I designed some custom decals for the rocket, and I sent the design off to stickershock23.com, and I literally got them back within a few days before the launch. It was perfect timing. So shout out to StickerShock23 for getting those awesome decals back to me in time. They are amazing. I've been using them for a lot of my projects. Huge shout out to eRockets in Dayton for providing me with the motor mount tube airframes. I got a really great deal on them, and I also got them super fast. I encourage you guys to check out their store. They have a whole bunch of products, everything between low power all the way up to high power rocket kits and parts, engines, really anything you could ever need. And they actually sell some of my products between nose cones and more. I'm actually growing my inventory every day, so be sure to check out their website. Lots of good stuff there. Now on to the launch footage. Just a safety disclaimer before I get into this, I would not have launched this if it wasn't safe. And in fact, I wouldn't have been able to launch it because the range safety officer, basically the rocket launch site boss, they would have told me that I would not have been able to fly. When I showed up, I showed the range safety officer all the details of the build, and he believed that we would be able to fly it safely, and if it did fail, it would fail in a safe manner because everyone at the launch site was following launch protocols.
This guy has been yapping for like 400 hours. Can we please just see some rockets launch? Jeez.
I see it. Yes, Dominic, it's actually gonna land on the field.
You're not even gonna swim, dude.
Come on, come on.
Traffic Skyhawk 40 Charlie is 10 miles to the southeast of Mountain Landing, Ross County.
All right, how do we feel?
It's in one piece.
Yeah, it is. Average day with Dominic Bleacher.
That was actually awesome. I'm just gonna like
God,
turn.
it's so
I'm gonna
deadly.
turn around, and this is gonna smack you in the face.
Over your shoulder, the amount
I mean, it's
of
your
bend.
camera. I was lying about not going to film school. I'm actually going to film school.
Oh, you are? I didn't know that.
No.
And now for the onboard footage, and I'm not gonna lie, this is pretty interesting.
I know this wind noise is really loud, so I'm just going to put some stupid music over it. Okay, that's enough.
Like I said, it was really interesting. And if you actually look, you can actually see the fins go out of view as the bottom of the rocket like bends during flight. And it's like, it's a little disturbing, but it's also really funny to watch. And even after the 15-foot rocket launch, we kept launching rockets at this section, and we just had a blast. They had launched a whole bunch of other odd rockets and really cool builds, and I had a great time with everyone else at the site and all of my friends. So I'm gonna roll a few clips from our other launch shenanigans, and hopefully you enjoy.
From Will's car.
Put them on a watch list.
Newest transportation system. Mikhail Sotek. I mean, I have the patent on board and everything. So if you want to buy it, I'll sell it. Yep.
Need some lube.
Yeah. We got hot.
That was pretty cool.
That's good, yeah.
Well, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. I'd like to also give a shout out to my buddy Will, who helped get a lot of these awesome shots you saw in the video. My friend Mikal, who helped with a lot of launch preparations and other things going on. And also, once again, Spencer, thank you so much for cutting out these parts. They came out amazing. I'd like to thank my rocketry mentor, Tim. Tim has been super helpful with projects and certifications and so much high power rocketry stuff for years now, and I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for the influence you've had on me. Also, I'd like to thank NARSection WV Sort for allowing us to launch this crazy rocket and also just allowing us to have a fun time. It's a really great section. It's a great field, and I encourage you guys to check out their launch schedule if you're in the area. As always, I try to make everything I do open source, so I have included the files for this project in the description below. Also, be sure to check out my website, my merch store, my Discord server. I have a whole bunch of ways to stay in contact with other Rocketeers and to ask questions and grow as a community. If you guys want to see something like this again, if you want to see me launch this same rocket on a bigger engine,
I probably would put an eye motor on it. I think I might. Like a very, very small eye motor.
If you couldn't put an eye, just put an L at that point.
It won't fit. Idiot.
Well,
There's
get
no
an
Nomex.
adapter.
The Nomex.
or if you want to see more odd rocket projects, let me know in the comments below. I'm actually going to build the most liked comment on this video for a rocket project. As long as it's like not utterly impossible, I'm gonna do it. Once again, thank you so much for supporting the channel. This is Dominic from DHB Aerospace signing off.
The onboard footage is gonna be crazy.
So loud to the ATV.
That's actually a really cool motor.
Holy cow, dude. How did that work? Was it even angled that bad?
No, it went straight.
I mean, seems to have landed in a good spot.
Where is it? Anybody see
Probably
it?
gonna be like sticking straight up out of the ground. You see it?
Yes.
Nice. That was so cool.